The silence in my home was almost suffocating, the kind that seeps into your bones when you're used to someone else's presence for decades. It had been 2 years since my husband passed away, and though I had grown familiarized to the loneliness, there were days when the stillness felt like a weight pressing down on me. But I managed, finding comfort in the familiar pages of books and fleeting memories. My name is Evelyn. I'm 55, and people often tell me I'm still quite charming. I try to keep myself lively, graceful, feminine, and always holding on to the spark of youth that refuses to flicker out, even with the years and loss. I had decided that I won't allow the colors from my life to fade away. I live in this old, quiet house where time feels frozen since my husband's death. I'm still young at heart, though. Just as I sank deeper into my thoughts, lost in the world of my book, the doorbell rang. My heart gave a small leap. It was Stephen, my nephew. He had promised to visit today, and I always enjoyed his company. He was a nice young man who understood me and tried everything to make me happy. I often felt I should have a son like him. His energy was infectious, and it reminded me of a version of myself that felt distant, almost like a different lifetime. When I opened the door, there he was, his presence lighting up the dim hallway. But standing beside him was someone I didn't expect, someone who stirred a different kind of energy in me.
Hey, Auntie.
Stephen's arms wrapped around me in a warm hug. I smiled, hugging him back. You don't visit enough, you know. And this must be Nick, I said, my gaze shifting to the man standing quietly beside Stephen. I had heard about Nick and seen him a couple of times in passing, but today he felt different. Taller than Stephen, with an effortless confidence that filled the space. His handshake was firm, and when our eyes met, there was something unspoken there, a flash of something that I couldn't quite place.
Nice to meet you, ma'am,
he said, his voice smooth, almost too soft. The way his eyes lingered on me for a moment longer than necessary made my heart skip a beat. Just for a second. Please, come in. I gestured, hoping my voice hadn't hesitated. We moved into the living room, and as I settled into my armchair, I felt a subtle shift in the air. There was laughter and lighthearted conversation. Stephen and Nick shared stories of their work, their weekend adventures, and their lives in the city. I found myself laughing more than I had in months, swept up in their youthful energy, and perhaps that's why Stephen had come and brought his friend so I don't feel an old lady. They wanted to involve me in the conversation as if I was their age. And yes, I really had forgotten my age. Stephen was his usual charming self, but Nick was different. He was quieter, observant. Every so often, I would catch him watching me, his gaze steady as if he was studying me. It wasn't uncomfortable, just curious. The conversation flowed, the room filled with warmth and laughter, but beneath it all, I felt a strange tension creeping in, like a current just waiting to pull me under. As the evening rolled on, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter became softer, more intimate, and the silences between words felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. I tried to brush it off as nothing more than my imagination, but there was a strange energy in the air, something that made the room feel smaller, more suffocating. Stephen suddenly stretched, breaking the tension.
Auntie,
He said, flashing me that mischievous smile I knew all too well.
you've been cooped up in this house for too long. How about we go for a little drive? Just the three of us. I'm sure it'll be really fun.
I blinked, taken aback by the suggestion. A drive? At this hour? I glanced at the window where the sky had already begun to darken, the fading light casting long shadows across the room. Stephen exchanged a glance with Nick, who smiled, his gaze lingering on me.
Come on, Auntie.
Stephen urged, his voice almost persuading.
You need this. Just a short drive to clear your head. It's been too long.
I hesitated, the sensible part of me screaming that it was a bad idea. But something in their energy, the way they looked at me with a strange mix of affection and something else, made it impossible to say no. All right, I said, relenting with a soft smile. You win. Let's go. Before I knew it, we were in Stephen's car. I sat in the back seat, the cool night air rushing through the open windows, my hair blowing softly around my face. Stephen and Nick were in the front, chatting and laughing, but I was lost in my thoughts. As the town disappeared behind us, replaced by winding roads and the soft murmur of the engine, I felt a strange mix of excitement and unease bubbling up inside me. Maybe I was overthinking. Perhaps they only wanted me to enjoy and there was nothing else. Perhaps because I had never experienced this before, I was feeling uneasy. How could I forget I was with my nephew and his friend who had only come to cheer me up? But suddenly, Stephen turned off the main road, steering the car down an old, narrow path that looked eerily familiar. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice a little too sharp for my liking. Stephen smiled, his eyes twinkling with naughtiness.
"You'll see,"
he said. The path led us to a remote spot by the lake, a place I hadn't visited since I was much younger. My breath caught in my throat as memories washed over me. Nick and Stephen got out first, stretching as they took in the view. I hesitated for a moment before stepping out of the car, the cool night air wrapping around me like a soft blanket. It was breathtaking. The lake, the stars beginning to twinkle in the darkening sky, the soft chirping of crickets filling the air. "This place," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't been here in years." Nick stepped closer, his eyes fixed on me.
"What kind of memories does this place hold for you?"
His voice was quiet, but there was a weight to his words, a tension that hung between us. Stephen intervened.
"You don't need to answer that, Auntie,"
he said.
"Nick's just trying to make you feel comfortable, you know? Like we're all friends and less like an auntie and her sons. Don't pay any attention to him."
Then I felt embarrassed. I had been doubting them, but all they were doing was to make me feel comfortable and forget an age difference existed. "No, that's all right," I said, answering the earlier question. "Youthful memories. It used to be a secret spot for, well, people who wanted to get away." There was a hint of naughtiness in my voice, and Stephen caught it, smiling.
"You were quite the rebel, huh?"
His tone was teasing, but there was something deeper in it. A curiosity, maybe even admiration. I laughed softly, brushing it off. Maybe. We all had our moments, didn't we? But as I spoke, I could feel the shift again. That strange tension growing thicker. Nick's gaze lingered on me a little too long, and Stephen's smile held an intensity that made my heart race. Yes, I was still in doubts. There was something in the air, something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. We laid out a blanket near the edge of the lake, the cool night air wrapping around us, sending soft ripples across the still water. The stars above seemed endless, each one twinkling like a distant secret waiting to be discovered. There was something about being out here, with them, that made me feel different. Not like the aging widow I had become over the last few years, but like I was alive again, like the pulse of life was beating faster in my veins. Stephen settled onto the blanket beside me, leaning back with an easy smile. He glanced at me and I caught the flicker of something in his eyes that I couldn't quite place.
"You know, Auntie,"
he said, his voice quieter now, more thoughtful.
"I've always admired you. You're still sharp, still beautiful."
The words hit me like a soft wave, gentle yet powerful, sending a flush of warmth through my chest. I wasn't used to hearing such things anymore, at least, not with such sincerity. "That's sweet of you to say," I replied, trying to steady my voice, though I could hear the shiver in it. "But really, it's about the company. You boys have breathed new life into me tonight." I smiled, but inside, something deeper stirred, something I hadn't felt in years. Nick, who had been sitting a bit away, quiet and observant as always, finally spoke up. His voice was low, almost a murmur.
"It's more than just tonight."
His words careful, deliberate. He looked directly at me, his dark eyes holding mine in a way that made my pulse quicken.
"It's about the choices we make, the people we choose to surround ourselves with. You still have so much to offer, Auntie. So much beauty, so much wisdom.
His words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. It wasn't just the usual flattery. There was something deeper behind them, something unsaid but understood. But maybe they just wanted to learn wisdom from me? Who knows? But suddenly I realized they weren't just looking at me as their aunt anymore. In their eyes, I was more than just a relative. They were seeing me as a woman, someone they admired, maybe even desired. My heart started to race, the air around us thickening with tension. The easy conversation from earlier was gone, replaced by a silence. I swallowed, trying to gather my thoughts. "You boys," I began, my voice softer now, trembling slightly. "Life is about making the right choices. You're still young, and sometimes it's hard to see clearly." I paused, watching their faces carefully, feeling the weight of my words hanging between us. But you have to think carefully about what you really want. For a moment, Stephen's gaze dropped to the ground, as if he were searching for something in the grass. When he looked back up at me, his eyes were filled with a quiet intensity that left me breathless.
I know, Auntie. I feel like I'm missing something, like there's more out there, but I haven't figured out what it is yet.
His words echoed in the stillness, raw and vulnerable. There was a longing in his voice that I hadn't expected, and it tugged at something deep inside me. Nick shifted closer, his presence suddenly more imposing. His gaze never left mine, and in the dim light, I could see the flicker of desire that he wasn't bothering to hide anymore.
Sometimes,
He murmured, his voice low, almost a whisper.
what you're missing is right in front of you.
The words hit me like a punch to the chest. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't move. There was something in the way he said it, something undeniable, something dangerous. I tore my gaze away from his, trying to regain control of the situation, but the tension between us had grown unbearable. My skin tingled with the heat. This was a line we were wobbling on, and I wasn't sure if I had the strength to stop it from being crossed. Stephen, sensing the shift in the air, moved a little closer to me, his hand brushing against mine ever so slightly. The contact sent a jolt of emotions through me, and I felt my breath quicken. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it gently, his fingers warm against my cold skin.
Auntie,
He whispered, his voice barely audible.
do you ever wonder what it would be like to just let go?
His words hung in the air, heavy and full of meaning. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears, my body betraying me as I felt a wave of desire crash over me, stronger than I had ever expected. I hadn't been touched like this in years, not since my husband. And yet, here I was, with these two young men, feeling things I shouldn't be feeling. I began, my voice shaking, unsure of how to answer, unsure of how to stop what was happening. But as I looked into Stephen's eyes, and then Nick's, I realized that the line had already been blurred.
You don't have to say anything.
Nick said, his voice like velvet, soft but commanding. He moved closer, his gaze locked on mine, as if waiting for permission.
We're all adults here.
The way he said it, the way they both looked at me, made it clear. They wanted this. They wanted me. And in that moment, I wanted it too. Stephen's hand tightened slightly around mine, his eyes never leaving my face.
Auntie, you don't have to fight it. We're here. We're with you.
Nick's hand found my other arm, gently tracing a line up to my shoulder. His touch was light, but it sent shivers through my entire body.
Just let go.
He whispered, his breath warm against my ear. Even though the tension was suffocating, something in me stirred, a sense of responsibility, of wisdom. No, boys, listen to me. This isn't right, I said. They both froze, their hands still resting on me, but the intensity in their eyes flickered. I know you feel like this is what you want, but you don't. Not really. This isn't just about desire or instinct. We're family, and what's happening right now, if we let it continue, it'll change everything. There was a long pause, and then Nick spoke first, his voice quieter now.
We didn't mean to push you into something, Auntie. We just admire you so much. I guess we got carried away.
Stephen nodded in agreement, his expression softening as he pulled his hand back.
Yeah, Auntie. You've always been more than just family. You've been someone we've looked up to, and I guess we lost sight of that for a moment.
As they drove me back home, the silence between us wasn't awkward or filled with tension. Instead, it was the kind of silence that comes after a lesson has been learned, after something important has been said. But something different happened. This time, my heart was betraying me. As we got closer to the house, my hands trembled slightly in my lap. I didn't want the night to end. Not like this. Not with the lingering sensation of something unfinished. Something dangerous still hanging in the air. The thought of stepping back into my cold, empty home felt unbearable, like returning to a life of silence after feeling so alive. I glanced up, my breath catching in my throat as I met Nick's gaze in the rearview mirror. His eyes were dark, fuming with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as though he was seeing right through me, past all the polite surface, right to the core of who I was. The woman who had longed for something more, something forbidden. I didn't know what came over me at that moment, but it was as if time slowed, and everything I had been holding back rushed to the surface. Without thinking, without hesitation, I leaned forward. The next thing I knew, my lips brushed against his. Just the faintest touch, but enough to ignite a spark that threatened to burn everything down. In the front seat, Stephen turned, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and disbelief.
Auntie.
His voice was laced with confusion, but there was no anger, no judgment, just surprise, and something else. Something I couldn't quite place. I pulled back, my breath ragged, my heart thudding in my chest. I don't know what's happening, I whispered, my voice trembling. But I can't stop. Nick's hand found mine in the dark, his grip firm but gentle, his thumb brushing against my skin in a way that sent another wave of heat crashing through me. Nick's hand slid up my arm, his touch gentle but insistent. And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. Nick's hand found its way to my thigh, his fingers brushing lightly over my skin, sending another jolt of electricity through me. A dam breaking, a flood of emotions I hadn't realized I had been holding back for so long. I wasn't just Evelyn, the widow, the quiet aunt who lived in a big empty house. I was a woman, full of desire, full of life. And for the first time in a long time, someone saw me. I reached for Nick again, pulling him closer, and this time when our lips met, it wasn't hesitant. It was fiery and desperate, as though we were both trying to drown out the consequences of what was happening with every touch. Stephen watched, his breath coming in shallow gasps.
Auntie, is this really what you want?
I tore my lips away from Nick's, my chest heaving as I struggled to catch my breath. I turned to Stephen, my mind racing. Stephen came closer to me, kissing me tightly. I could feel his hand on my chest, touching me lightly. Then, Stephen and Nick got out of the car and opened the doors for the back seat, coming to me so they could finish what I had started. In that moment, I knew the forbidden was about to happen. The worst part was that I was enjoying it. When they came inside the car, Stephen said,
Auntie, we will make you feel what you never experienced before.
I knew what he was saying. He was asking me to prepare to get pleasure from two young boys at the same time. When it was over, an unbearable stillness filled the car, thick and suffocating. The warmth, the urgency, all of it was gone now, leaving behind only the weight of what had just happened. My body trembled, not from the cold, but from the realization of the line we had crossed, a line that could never be redrawn. The boys were silent. Stephen stared blankly out the window, and Nick sat rigid in the seat beside me. I could not say anything, so I got out of the car and went into the house. Within no time, I saw Stephen and Nick going in their car. As I stood there in the quiet of my house, the weight of my actions pressing down on me, I realized something. I had let myself believe that crossing that line would make me feel alive again, would somehow fill the emptiness left by the years of loss. But instead, it had done the opposite. I had shattered something far more precious than a fleeting moment of desire. I had broken the bond of trust and admiration that had taken years to build. I let it happen. I whispered to myself, the words heavy with regret. I thought I could control it, that maybe it wouldn't matter. But it does. It always does. I had been the one who should have known better, the one who should have stopped before it went too far. But instead, I had let myself be swept away by something reckless, something that couldn't be undone. Yes, it's right that life is full of choices, and in those moments of weakness, we often cross lines we can never step back from. I had crossed that line tonight, and no matter how much I wished I could, there was no way to undo what had been done.